Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today, we're taking a look at a really cool knife. This is the Vosteed Grind. Before we get into this, big shout out to Old Tonto Guy for loaning this into the channel. Without him, I would not have had the opportunity to take a look at this knife, so I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Start off with our blade length measurement. Sharpened edge here is coming in about just under 3 1/4 inches, 3 1/16. Overall length, if we measure all the way back to the scales, 3 1/4 pretty much on the dot. So kind of a mid-size, standard size EDC knife. Let's go ahead and compare against our rats. There's the 1 and there's the 2. So yeah, kind of fits in between the two of those. Let's grab our USA made comparisons. There's the PM2, and there's the bug out. Very similar in size to the bug out. I can already hear people in the comments, it's a bug out clone. Basically any drop point, spear point knife with a crossbar lock and a 3 1/4 inch blade is a bug out clone, I guess, according to some people. Let's compare against our Civivis. There's the Elementum, and there's the Praxis. Sweet. And to close up size comparisons, let's go ahead and compare against a couple of Vosteeds. Here's the Vosteed Nightshade. Love that knife. And here's another Vosteed that was sent in by Old Tonto Guy, the Thunderbird. Right on, right on. Okay, what are we looking at for our materials here? Well, we have a 154 cm Scandi ground blade, which is going to be kind of the highlight of this review. However, there is another version of this knife that has a more traditional flat grind.
Hey guys, so a little bit of an apology right now. I don't know where I got this idea, but I thought that Vosteed offered the grind with a flat grind for some reason. That's not true. They offer a full Scandi and a micro beveled Scandi versions of this knife. So everything that I am going to say or have already said about this knife being offered in an alternative version, you can kind of disregard, because upon doing my research, which arguably I should have done before I sat down to film the review, yeah, I'm learning that I was incorrect on that. Yeah, that's kind of a shame. I'm not sure why they would do this. You can just micro bevel the full Scandi version if you want to. I mean, I guess it saves you convenience buying it pre-micro beveled, but okay. Also, I think this knife is discontinued, which kind of sucks. But yeah, there we go.
The scales are green micarta. We've got that crossbar lock running on bearings, and we have a steel pocket clip and steel liners. Let's go ahead and go cut some stuff.
Guys, I'll tell you what. This view right here is going to ruin all other review cutting I do. I mean, we're not gonna cap this, right? Let me look at that. Isn't that just fantastic? Anyways, today we're doing review cutting for the Vosteed Grind, sent in by Old Tonto Guy. Very interesting knife. I have absolutely loved carrying this thing. This thing is awesome, but that's beside the point. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start off with that action. Crossbar lock and thumb studs. Works really nicely. And in fact, this is a very satisfying crossbar lock action to me. It doesn't have the same like kind of crispy detent as the QSP Vault, but I don't know, it's got its own kind of just satisfying clackiness. It just works really nicely. You can technically flick off of that fuller, kind of, if you try hard enough, but it's not meant to be a deployment option by any means. The thumb studs work amazingly, so just stick with the thumb studs. It is running on bearings, so, you know, we're all loosey-goosey, all that good stuff. What do you expect? Another thing about this action that I really like is that the studs for the crossbar lock poke out further than any other crossbar lock I've ever owned, which makes it so easy to just grab them and manipulate them. How come everything you talk about with knives somehow sounds like an innuendo? Anyways, moving on, that's the action. Let's talk about the ergos. The ergos look very plain, and they kind of are. This is a pretty neutral handle. The scales are very slightly contoured. We've got this frag pattern on the micarta. The micarta is not the grippiest micarta I've ever held. It's almost kind of like a G10, actually. When I first touched this knife, I in fact thought the scales were G10, but they're not. They're micarta. The ergos themselves, though, are actually really, really nice. This works fantastic in this grip here. You can go up into this grip right here. Great ergos. I really have no complaints. They're not the best thing ever, but they work, and they're pretty solid for what they are. Alrighty, I hate to ruin this view here, but let's go ahead and tilt down for the in-pocket carry. Great pocket clip, inset with flat screws, and it is reversible. Thank you for looking out for the lefties, Vosteed. This is a completely ambidextrous knife. The clip itself works pretty well. There is a little bit of grabbiness just because of the frag textured scales, but it's not bad. Once you get in your pocket, the knife folds up to a very slim package. You can get your hand down in there, and you know you're just fine. You're good to go. Let's bring out a pair of jeans real quick. Why do I not put the jeans on? Because I'm comfortable in the pants I'm wearing. Deal with it. Goes in pretty well. There you can see. That's the carry. A little bit grabby, like I said, but it's not like cold steel grabby. It's not going to tear your pants up instantly or anything like that. So, carry, very, very good. All right, let's go ahead and start cutting some stuff, shall we? So, we have a 154 cm spear point blade, and as you can see, this particular version has the Scandi grind. There is a version of this offered with a more traditional flat grind, but this is the one we've got right here, so let's go ahead and start cutting. Now, I am going to plug another video of mine real quick. If you want to know more about how the Scandi grind works on an EDC knife, I made an entire video about EDCing Scandi grinds for 2 weeks, so check that out. All right, cardboard. Scandi grinds give you a really interesting feeling when you're going through cardboard. Because it is a wedge, you're wedging the cardboard, and because cardboard's kind of a rigid material, it can feel a little bit goofy sometimes, but it's not the end of the world. This is a spear point, so you can get to really, really easy utility cuts. All right, let's grab our rope. There we go. Bam. Scandi grinds eat rope for lunch. That felt fantastic. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that speaks for itself. A Scandi grind, like I already said, it eats rope for lunch. Not a problem whatsoever. And let's grab our pool noodle. This could be interesting. Let's go ahead, see what we got here. 1, okay. 2, whoops. 3. All right, so again, because a Scandi grind is essentially a chisel, it feels a little bit awkward going through the foam. It not really snags, it kind of binds up a little bit, but honestly, it's not bad. I wasn't able to go super thin, but this is about average, so nothing to be disappointed about for sure. There we go. There's another look at that guy. Good looking knife, by the way. Let's go ahead and get back to the table. Ah, dang it.
One of the biggest pros of a Scandi grind is that it gives you an incredibly acute edge apex. One of the biggest cons of a Scandi grind is that it gives you an incredibly acute edge apex. So, focus up, camera. Yeah, we have got some edge damage on this thing. Just got back from a camping trip, took this with me. Worked out amazingly, but yeah, we did damage the edge a little bit. So I'm going to go and sharpen this up and repair it for old Tonto guy because I cannot send him his knife back like this. Luckily, when it comes to sharpening a Scandi, it's pretty simple. This whole thing's our edge bevel, so this is the angle we need to keep. We just need to basically set this entire grind against our stone. I might have to take off the thumb studs to do that on this knife, but I'll come back to you with the final results. It should be fairly easy, because that's another pro of a Scandi, is they're pretty easy to touch up. Alrighty. What am I liking and not liking about this knife here? Number one, it's a good looking knife. I think it's got a lot of personality. I like this fuller in the blade. The Scandi grind on this version also definitely gives it a bit of personality. The frag pattern on these micarta scales is pretty sweet. Yeah, I think it's just I think it's a good looking knife. It is not a bug out clone. It's definitely got a personality all of its own. Ergos. I like the ergos on this guy a lot. I always get kind of worried when I see things like this. I have kind of a sharpish corner right here, but in case of this knife, it does not bother me at all. I feel really, really locked in here. If you really wanted to, you can choke up there. A little less comfortable, but you know, it's doable. But this grip right here, this is fantastic. This is where you need to be. The micarta's got a lot of nice grippiness because of this frag pattern. And the scales are very slightly contoured. You can see there, like that. So yeah, this thing just feels really good in the hand. I appreciate the ergos quite a bit. Next thing, the action. I do like this action. I've been getting more into, or back into, crossbar locks recently. And this one's got a good action. It's very satisfying. It's got a good little pop. The tension on the crossbar lock is excellent. These thumb studs are positioned just right and they're very comfortable. And yeah, this thing does not have like the strongest detent I've ever felt on a crossbar lock. You know, something like this QSP Vault has a much stronger pop, but this does have a little more resistance than something like most Benchmades I felt. And I don't know, it's just very satisfying. It's very, very satisfying because, how do I explain this? It kind of feels like a slow open. Like, it doesn't feel as poppy, as quick as like that QSP, but it locks up every single time reliably. I don't know, it's just nice. I like it. I can feel that lock engage. I hear that thunk of the lock engaging, and that just fills me with confidence. I love it. Speaking of that lock, look how far out those studs stick. I really like that. Focus up, camera. I really like that because it means that this knife is very, very easy to use with gloves on. I mean, I use this with gloves a few times. I pull out of the pocket, just grab those and open it like that. And then very easy to find to close a knife again. Very, very good. They're easy to grip. And again, we already talked, but the tension on this crossbar lock feels really, really nice. So great execution on the crossbar lock is long story short. Next thing, we have T8 hardware all the way around, which is very, very cool. I always love seeing that. And minimal hardware too. I think it's also kind of interesting that they have these two screws like right here next to each other. I don't know why, it's kind of funny to me, but it kind of looks interesting. So I guess we can count that as a point towards the aesthetics. Reversible pocket clip. The pocket clip works decently well. It's reversible, making this a completely ambi-friendly knife. Thank you, Vosteed. We really, really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and talk about that blade. So, if you really want to hear all of my thoughts on Scandi grinds, I made a video about EDCing Scandi grinds. I'll link it in a card here. I'll link it at the end of the video. Definitely check that out. Very, very cool video. Scandi grinds are not what I would go to for my EDC all the time, but they do give you an interesting EDC experience. And so I really did enjoy carrying this knife a whole lot. This is a great knife to have around the campsite, things like that. It's a spear point blade, so that tip is very easy to get to. If you're going to get the version of this that has the more traditional flat grind, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of really good use out of it. I did enjoy carrying this knife. The 154 CM held up really well. I love that steel a whole lot. Yeah, I enjoyed carrying this knife. I really did enjoy carrying this knife. Next thing, I did take this knife apart. I'll throw up some pictures of this knife disassembled. Was not too bad at all. I didn't take it apart all the way, but I did, take it apart, take the blade off, and things like that. For sharpening this knife, again, it's a Scandi, so basically this whole thing right here is what you sharpen. This is, you just have the single bevel to sharpen. I did take the thumb studs off, which was quite easy to take off and put back on, so I appreciate that. It makes sharpening this thing a breeze. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about some of my negatives and nitpicks. Number one, I'm not sure I like the feeling of this micarta. It's kind of a hard micarta. If we compare it to something like, whoops, dropping stuff. Set up 50 cal. If we compare it to something like the Sincut Waxahachie, this is a little softer. This is kind of hard. In fact, when I first had this knife in hand, I thought they were G10, and it's not bad. It's just I wish that I want my micarta either be soft or kind of coarse and grippy, and this is like hard and smooth, and I don't know. I just, it's not my favorite micarta ever. You might disagree, but that's how I feel about that. Next thing, I did notice that this knife just got dirty really, really quickly. I mean, I did carry this knife quite a bit, but even then, it was just getting way, way dirtier than most knives I carry. In fact, right here, you can see that there's still probably even some gunk in there I need to clean out before I send it back to Old Tonto Guy, so I will do that. But yeah, I mean, all these little, you can see there that it's milled out for a lot of weight relief in there, and I just found that it was just gathering gunk like crazy, and that's not something I normally talk about. I mean, all pocket knives gather gunk, but normally, you just blow it out, rinse it out, and you're good to go. For some reason, this guy just collected an obscene amount of gunk. Again, I don't know why, but it did. And the next thing, the blade. Yeah, the Scandi Grind blade is not the best thing for EDC. If you're breaking down cardboard and you hit a staple or something, you are going to chip that edge, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to kind of fix or whatever. You do have to remove a lot of steel to repair edge damage on a Scandi. Now, my trick, and I talked about this more in that other video, you can check that out. My trick is that you sharpen it like you're going to be putting on a micro bevel first to get that damage out. And I did damage this edge while I was carrying this. But you sharpen it like you're going to be putting a micro bevel on, get that damage cleared out, and then you sharpen it again like a regular Scandi from here all the way down. So it's a little more time consuming. It's a little more susceptible to chips and stuff, so that could be a major deal breaker for you. But if that is a major deal breaker for you, they offer other versions, and you can go with those instead. So maybe it's a moot point. Whatever, Get the one that suits your flavor. Next thing, I kind of wish that this fuller was kind of more accessible to being flicked. This is a fuller that's only there for aesthetics. It'd be cool if it was also an opening mechanism, but it is not. And to be honest, those are really my only complaints. Let's go ahead and go into my final conclusions. These go for about $75. Is it worth that? Yeah, absolutely. I think so. 100%. This thing is really, really well made. There's a lot I love about this design. The ergos, again, are a highlight. The crossbar lock's a highlight. The blade, you've got two different blades you can choose from, so pick your poison, whatever suits you and your need requirements best. Go for that. I really enjoyed carrying this knife. I really, really enjoyed carrying this knife. In fact, there for a while, this was like my dedicated adventure pocket knife. I just found this was really, really good for the outdoors paired with a fixed blade. I took this with me a lot, hiking. This climbed a couple mountains with me, went camping with me a bunch. I really enjoyed using it. It's a really, really good size. Again, very intuitive ergonomics, and that blade is pretty sweet. Now, if I was going to be buying one for myself, would I go with the Scandi Grind? Probably not. But I love that the Scandi Grind exists because this is different. I mean, you don't see very many pocket knives with Scandi Grinds. Ironically, the two that I reviewed this year both came from Old Tonto Guy, which is kind of fun. But I really love that this exists, and I'm sure there's someone out there who this is going to be the more ideal blade shape. And again, for a lot of the stuff that I did, this actually was not a bad option. Around camp and stuff, I use this to make a couple tent stakes. I use this to make some skewers for roasting marshmallows and weenies and stuff. For woodwork, it's fantastic, of course. Opening packages and stuff, it's all right. When it comes to food prep, scanning grinds are not the best. They work all right on meat. Like if you got a steak and you're cutting that, they work all right on like meat and stuff. But when it comes to fruits and vegetables, things like that, you don't want a scanning grind. But yeah, very, very cool knife. Really, really glad that I had the opportunity to review it. Big shout out to Old Thompson Guy again. And I think that's going to be where I leave you guys. Alrighty, big shout out to all my channel members at the cowboy level right here. Really appreciate everything they do. If you want to become a channel member, there's a link down below. For everyone else, if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.